I'd like to welcome you all. How are you doing out there today? This is Art Manville, and that was Terry. Hello, Terry.
I'm on mute.
Okay.
Good morning.
I know she's got some things to do here, so thanks for doing the pre-introductions. I'd like to welcome you all to the call today. Andy, you're on here?
I'm right here, Art.
Okay, great. Well, let's get the ball rolling. Just thought I'd give you folks a little update what's been going on in our world lately. Yes, we live in the boondocks here. You can see we have some bandits here eating our trees. A couple of bandits in there. Our daughter is visiting right now, so we're having lots of fun out for dinner last night. It's nice to be able to go to a restaurant and not having to worry about how much the bill is. I mean, I think Andy can probably relate to that. And she's in the kitchen right now. She's actually a personal chef, so when she comes, she has to try all of her new recipes on us. It's a tough job, but we're excited about doing it. And they're in the kitchen right now doing some stuff, so it's been a lot of fun. When you have a home business and you're your own boss and somebody comes to visit, you just take the time off. And so I'm really excited about introducing our next guest, one of Zango's true leaders, a man with a great heart, loved throughout Zango, I think, down to earth, but passionate, an inspiration, 100K Premier, Andy Hewson. Are you there, Andy?
I'm right here.
Wow, you're looking pretty good in some of these pictures, too. Well, Andy, I think there's a lot of people on here that really haven't heard your story. So before we get into the training that we'd like to do this morning, why don't you just run through, your story about, what happened, how you got involved in Zango, how your life has changed, and so on. Where you're from, that kind of stuff.
All right. Well, how I got involved was pretty much, I think, like just about everybody. They got a phone call or a connection. Mine was a phone call, and it came from a person I knew, a friend, and was excited about what he had found. And so, without getting into all what happened, I actually drove to New Jersey, then came back and drove back down to Philadelphia. Actually, my first meeting, Art, I declined it. I looked at it, said, okay, it's network marketing. Yeah, it's a juice and sounds really cool and everything else, but thanks, but no thanks. I'll keep doing what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah.
And then, but then there were some things I learned at that meeting that haunted me. And so I just, I stayed with it, took 3 meetings, and I said, okay, let's rock and roll.
Well,
and then, go ahead.
Andy, you had some very humble beginnings, and I don't know exactly, what you were doing at that time, or whether some of your beginnings with just living out in the middle of the boondocks, right?
Yeah. Well, that's where I live is Bradford County, Pennsylvania, and we love beer and deer out here. A lot of people are into that. They just hunting deer, hunting turkey and bear. They're all over the place. To have a bear walk through your front yard is no big deal.
Wow.
And we have coyotes and mountain lions and lots of deer. And it's a beautiful, beautiful country. It's very, very hilly. I think one of those pictures you have shows my closest neighbor way out behind over on the next hill. And it's a very, very rural area. It's the Endless Mountains, they call it.
What is this picture, Andy? What's the story with this?
Here I am here we are in a webinar, and I'm not even at the computer. I'm up walking around. That's my outhouse.
That's your outhouse?
That's my outhouse, guys. That's a 5-seater. That is...
Oh, that's a big one.
That is high class. So at one time in this house where I live, the history of my house, it was an extremely affluent family that lived here. They moved here clear back in the early 1800s and built a little shack. And from that shack, they added a room as the family grew. This is what they did back then. Family grew, you added more onto the house, and then built a big Victorian off the fairly, I don't know what it is. It's now my living room, and it's 25 feet by 30 or 40 feet. And that's what a family of about 4 lived in, with a small upstairs and a root cellar. Wow. As they lived on this farm back then. And, so that's my outhouse. And obviously you move those things around. When you fill up the hole, you cover them up. I don't use it anymore, Art. I actually have plumbing in the house. But there are people out here in Bradford County that still do not have electricity, and they don't have water plumbed into their building.
So how, Andy, I mean, how do you build a business from out in the middle of nowhere like that?
Well, the beautiful thing is this isn't stuck. You know, if I had to just truck in Zango juice, put up a building, and sell it out of my building, I'd go broke probably, or just barely be making ends meet and be working like crazy and have lots of overhead, right?
Yeah.
I don't have any overhead, and I can do this from my home, but it extends out across the country, just like we heard on this call, people coming in from all over the place. It has grown way beyond me, way beyond Bradford County, throughout this country and into many other countries of the world.
You know, one of the things I heard you talk about that was so inspirational is some of the dreams that you had, you know, like to see the water or something like that. I mean, see the ocean?
Not see the ocean, but to see blue water. I mean, I didn't realize, I grew up in very poor, very humble beginnings. I grew up with an outhouse, and, and we used to have to hunt. We had a garden, and you ate out of the garden, and we canned food, and had to hunt for food. So and a lot of people did that out here. I'm surprised, actually, a lot of people have done that everywhere. And a lot of people have had outhouses. I was surprised as I got into Zango. But one of my dreams, Art, was to see blue water. I thought the ocean was blue. So I drove to New Jersey to see blue water. I was surprised. It's brown in the ocean. Yeah, so I went out on the Long Island Sound. It was brown. I didn't know that it was only, further south. So I traveled around. Well, within Zango, I got to see blue water. Not only have I seen, it's just been such a dream of mine. I've seen it in Florida, in Miami, Phuket, Thailand, Hawaii a few times. I've seen it in Singapore. It's Cancun, Mexico, because of Zango. I've traveled around and been able to see that. Wanted to drive on the wrong side of the road. Well, and I found out, that's not the wrong side of the road. Most of the world drives on that side. But I got to do that. I wanted to travel somewhere besides just the United States. So I've been into Canada, I've been into Mexico, been into several different countries. Just huge blessings. One of the big things, I wanted to drive a Ferrari. I've been able to do that, and I will own a Ferrari. Wanted to ride elephants, see monkeys, get near the equator. That's happened. Just a lot of just goofy things. How about swim with dolphins? Something else I wanted to do. And so Zango has afforded me, and they may seem like really simple dreams and a little goofy, but hey, they were my dreams. It's what I wanted. And they've all come true. And one of the biggest ones for me are, as I was growing up, I felt that our family was kind of a detriment. We had a lot of people help us out. We struggled. And people would bring us food, and they'd go out and shoot animals and bring them and help my family out to survive, to eat. And I grew up feeling like we were a detriment to society rather than a blessing, and I wanted to change that. I wanted to be a blessing for society. I wanted to go out into the world and be able to give like was given to me, and I wanted to change children's lives. We got 144 million orphans in this world. We got people starving all over the place, in different countries. We live like kings and queens in this country, and I wanted to make a difference for them, along with people in our country, in our homeland here. So I've adopted children, physically adopted needy children out of Philadelphia. They have my last name, and I adopt kids in other parts of the world. And Zango has afforded me to be a huge blessing to I don't know how many people, but a lot. So it's just, and that's what I want. That was my biggest goal and dream in life, was to really be able to do that on a massive scale. And I'm just getting started.
You know what, Andy? What a great story. And it's often that our passion comes from adversity, and you rose above, your humble beginnings, but because of how difficult things were at one point in your life, this passion to make a difference, to help other people came from. And I think a lot of people on the phone here are on the webinar, they've had their adversity. Some of them are having adversity right now, with what's going on in the economy. But out of that, you can have a guy like Andy, and you can become somebody that does make a difference, that wants to stretch out and help other people rather than just thinking about themselves. So I really respect and honor you for that, Andy.
Well, the beautiful thing about Zango, and I'm singing to the choir here, probably to everybody on this call, but the beautiful thing is Zango is like a thermos. How does the thermos know if you put hot into it to keep it hot, or you put cold in to keep it cold? I mean, that's simplistic, but okay. But Zango's that way. They didn't ask me for a resume, Art. They didn't say, have you been successful? I don't have a college education. They didn't say, do you live in a beautiful place like Chris Peterson does up on he lives in a penthouse apartment. And they didn't ask me for anything, but do you have a desire to change not only your life, but other people's lives? That was the requirement to show up here. And so, and that's like a thermos. I don't care what nationality you are, whether you're male or female, tall or short, fat or skinny. It doesn't matter. You show up and go to work, and everybody's treated equal. I love it. Yeah, and the thermos really equals the vehicle, and once you have the right vehicle, then it's what you put into it that makes the difference. If you don't have the right vehicle, it might not matter what you put into it. Absolutely. You are 100% correct there. And so when you got involved in Zango, Andy, what were you involved in networking before? Is this your first success in the industry, or what was your background? That's a great question. This is my first success in the industry. I saw the industry. Actually, I saw it a long time ago in the form of Amway, and I poo-pooed it, laughed at it, pyramid scheme stuff, because I was ignorant. I didn't understand what it was, and the way it was brought to me upset me. I didn't like it. And with the arrogance and the ego that was brought into the realm of it all, so it actually repelled me. So I didn't learn much about it. Then I finally, as I started to understand more and more about it, and I started looking for a company. So I was what I call a glorified customer of other companies, and it was only 3. One was really quick, in and out, it was gone. And as I was, so really 2, as I was just looking around and poking in the corners, trying to find a home, trying to find something I could believe in, someone with vision and passion, and wanted to do what was in the same goals and dreams and aspirations I had, but it wanted to change the world on a massive scale. And that's one of the things that drew me to Zango. That's one of the things I heard that I went, okay, I want to go back and check this thing out. And when I heard Joe Morton's story, as I drove back to Philadelphia to hear him talk about how we networkers are the ones that change the world, and he wanted to do that on a massive scale. It touched me, and it connected with me. And not only do I want to be rich, but who wants money just for money's sake? Yeah, exactly. So I connected with Zango from that perspective, and I've been. You look pretty good on a horse here, Andy. What kind of horse is that? That's a quarter horse. Yeah, she's big chest. Old barrel cutter and calf roping horse. Did you do some of that? Oh, definitely. Grew up with horses. We had horses most all my life, and did an awful lot of horse riding. Yeah, I love horses. They're an amazing animal. You look very, very comfortable on that horse. Yeah. Yes. Actually, I'm a little more comfortable on that horse than I am on this call. So. Yeah. Right. Hey, well, listen, Andy. Let's get into the training. I know a lot of people are wanting to know, what we're talking about here with the third-party credibility, and I've got a picture up here of the Exco Pro Tour because as you got kind of famous as Doug was going around the country. I mean, I heard about him talking about Andy and all the what you had been doing since the tour. And it came around, and you'd been to several different tours, and you were really working the whole Exco Pro Tour. And I thought, Andy, I only know 2 Andys in Zango. And so I was wanting to get you on a webinar, and then we ran into each other at Washington, D.C., and then, you couldn't get away from me. So I got you pinned down for this. And so talk about the tour, what you learned from it, Andy, and then let's get into this third-party credibility and how you're applying that in your business. Okay, well, the tour was absolutely amazing. And one of the things I've seen in Zango that I knew we were going to get, I knew it was a matter of time, and I knew that we needed was something to pull everybody together. We needed to create a culture. And and I knew that the founders at some point was going to get around to doing this. I didn't know they were in the works for a couple of years, and trying to pull all this together. And I talked to them about it, and and I talked to other people. And so when that tour hit, it made sense to me. I wanted an event that was going to be the same event every single time that I took people to it. I drove traffic to it. I wanted to be able to trust that they weren't going to hear something that was counterproductive to my team, that they were going to hear something that was productive and moved them forward, and that when they heard something in Detroit, and then we sent a team to Kentucky and brought people into that and brought guests, they were going to hear the same thing again. And then we went to Greensboro, they were going to hear the same thing again. And, in Columbus, wherever it was, even Sacramento, they were going to hear the same thing in Sacramento that they heard in Columbus, Ohio. And we weren't a relationship business. This is all about relationships, and all relationships rise and fall on trust. So it was easy for me. I dove into that tour once I understood what we had going here and what was going on, and I started with Doug back in the Cayman Islands with John Godzik about this whole Exco Pro thing, and a little trepidation. I mean, I liked the concept, didn't know where they were going to go. So I just jumped into that tour, and we just started promoting it within the team. And I would bring people onto a conference call, like Betty Q. She had the first one that I knew of somebody I could really connect with in D.C.
Uh-huh.
And I called her up. Hey, how'd it go? What was it? Oh, it was amazing. It was this and that. No, okay. So I put her on a call and said, here's what I want. And you just pump this tour. You tell us what's going on and how excited you are and how excited your people are, and promote Doug and John. And so that's what I did, is I had her do it. And then I did it, and then when we went to a tour, we promoted Doug and John. And we just continually, constantly promoted Doug and John. Didn't promote Zango. People were going to those events not to see Zango. They didn't even hear the name Zango. They went there to meet this genius, this guy that's just a genius at building networks. And he's the guy is advisor for two presidents, kings, queens, and princes, Art. I mean, if you look at it, they're standing there with holding on to the lapels, they're all kingly and everything, and they're listening to Doug Weed give them advice. That's who we have. That's who we promoted. So in essence, if you could look at it, you spin it around, there's kings and queens and princes and world leaders and presidents sitting at the feet of Doug Weed saying, what do you think? That's what we promoted. You got to meet this guy. He'll change your life. So we promoted him.
People are wanting to meet people. And so to get people out to an event, you've got to promote the people that are going to be attending that event, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you were coming to an event out here, or I was going to drive people to one of your events, I would promote you, not the event, not Zango, not the product, not the company, but I would promote you. Because what's the number one magazine on the planet today? People.
Yep.
What's the number one internet site? Facebook. And then there's Twitter, too. And I'm not a Twitterer, but, there's a lot going on with that. People want to know what's going on in people's lives. People are drawn to people. So that's what we promote. And I got to give it up to Doug, man, and John. They taught me this. I'm learning this from the greats. These guys, John Godzik is just so brilliant. He's a man that's he is so above. He so knows what's going on out there and how to do this, and he's done it before. He's built dynasties. I mean, come on, he had 55,000 people in one of his organizations and have 70 or 80 show up at 80 or 50 or 60,000 and have 70 or 80,000 show up at an event. Now, how do you do that? Everybody on the call is going, wait a minute. Geez, I got 15,000 in my team, but I can only get 1,000 at an event or 2,000 at an event. How does he have that and get this? This guy is brilliant, and he knows how to retain people and get them to move. And then Doug Weed, on the other hand, is just a sheer genius at networking and connecting people. I don't think there's anybody better on the planet than that man.
Great speaker, obviously, and very intoxicating to listen to. So how many actual of these events did you go to yourself, Andy, or did you get a lot of people out to them then?
Oh, yeah. We drove traffic to all of them. I think I hit 7.
Wow.
Personally. Needed to be there to support the team and to show them. Because this is the beginning, Art. So I wanted to get out there and set the example, because how we do this is, how I believe we do this is to get out and lead. I see you do the same thing. You're doing webinars. And I've always admired that about you, is you lead the way. You've been ahead of the field a lot throughout your years in Zango and promoting things to help better your team and other people. So you get out and lead. So when I saw this, I jumped on the bandwagon and just went after it.
Okay, let's talk about this phrase, and I know you've been working this phrase, and let's get into the third-party credibility. A third party, and actually, what is a third party? It's just anybody else but yourself, right, Andy? I mean, it doesn't have to be, a 500K to be a third party, does it?
No, it does not. It can be a CD. It can be a brochure. It can be a book. It can be, it's something outside of you, something away from you.
Right, and so what you're doing a lot of is this is third-party credibility, and using this phrase here, which I first heard from Doug. We've been in the industry 25 years. I've never heard this phrase. So let's talk about these third-party credibility calls you're doing, how your team is working them since the tour. Now you're working the phones, doing three-ways. Why don't you run people through how that process is working for you and your team?
Okay, the process is working really, really well because we're not trying to compete with other companies. We're not trying to compete with other products. We're not trying to compete with anything. We have something that nobody else has. I mean, this is the genius of Doug Weed. We have something no one else has, and it's the team. We promote people. No one can compete with my team. The Bible talks about, if one can put 1,000 to flight, 2 can put 10,000 to flight, and a triple braided cord can't be broken. Well, what happens if that triple braided cord becomes 5 or 10 people or 30 people or 100 people? How many people can you put to flight with that versus trying to move a product? Now, I'm not saying that it has nothing to do with the product. Don't hear that. Or nothing to do with the company. But they aren't the lead. The lead is the team. So anybody on this call, I asked the lady, I'm working with this woman in Philadelphia yesterday, and we got some really big goals. The Wachovia Center's down there, holds somewhere around 15 to 20,000 people, and we're going to fill that thing. Wow. We ain't going to fill it. Other people are going to fill it. Well, they're not going to fill it. Other people are going to fill it. See, because this isn't something you build. This is something that happens. In my book, it's something that happens to you from doing the right things, and people need to stay in it long enough to have. You want to go 100K? You do the right things, and then somebody goes 20K. Well, they didn't go 20K because somebody went 5K. Well, wait a minute. They didn't really go 5K because somebody went 1K. Without those 1Ks, it couldn't all happen. So other people are doing it. It's kind of like building a house, Art. I did construction, and I can lay bricks, and I can lay blocks. And so if you think in building, when you lay something, when you go to build a house of bricks, and you lay a brick down, and you come back, you get another brick, you put the mud on it, and you lay it in there, get another brick, and you lay it in there, and it's all up to you. You're the one laying the bricks, and if you got 100 bricks to lay, you got to touch 100 bricks. But with Zango, you lay a brick, and you turn around and get another brick, and you lay that, and you get another brick, and you lay that, and then you come back, and you're putting your 4th brick down, you turn around, and there's 3 other bricks added. Well, the bricks started laying bricks. Then you come back and put another brick, and now you got 7 or 8 or 10 bricks there. And then you come back, and now you're at 20 bricks, and before you know it, you've got 100 bricks, but you've only put 7 or 8 bricks down. And that is it isn't building something, in my estimation. It's something that if we stick around and do enough of the right things, it happens to us. So I think I got off on a little tangent there, but it's about team. We promote the team heavily because if you're with the right team, you can't lose. And everybody knows they need a team. They need support. Doesn't matter whether you're with Zango or you're with IBM or you're with some other networking company. I mean, other networking companies have success. So how do we compete with them? We talk about our team. I mean, if I was on your team, Art, everybody I brought to you would think you walked on water. You and Chris Peterson, I mean, geez, you walk on water. And you virtually can't do anything wrong. And then people, what are they going to, they can't help but join. They know they've got somebody that wins. So I'm with Colleen. I think I got off on a tangent. And I asked her, let's bet $100,000 each, and let's go play golf, winner take all. 18 holes. She said, no, I don't even play golf. Okay, I'll make it $1 million. I'll put $1 million in a briefcase, and you put up $100,000. And she said, no, because I don't play golf. I said, okay, I'll tell you what. It's $1 million to $100,000, and you get to play with Tiger Woods and tag him anytime you want to take a shot. He's on your team. She says, it's done. I'll bet you.
Right.
And I said, okay, what if it's $100,000? She says, it's done. I said, okay, I'm going to put up $50,000. You got to put up $100,000. She says it's done because she knows she can win. And she didn't even ask me what kind of golfer I am. She just, as soon as it was Tiger Woods, she said, I'll do it. And that's what my team does. We make people believe that they're playing with Tiger Woods. They're coming to a call. They're talking to the Warren Buffett of network marketing. They're talking to the Donald Trump. I mean, we can't. That's the energy you put into it. This guy's a genius. He's a master.
Well, so then, Rocky, let's get into the actual how this actually works. Then, so you guys are setting up. People are introducing people to you and building up you on what's called a third-party call, using this phrase under normal circumstances. Is that right?
Yeah, under normal Yep, absolutely. And not a whole lot of big-time edification going into it, but we promote the person. Go ahead.
So why don't you walk through some of the calls that you did last week, for instance, and how they were set up and how you're using these calls, and what is the process that you're running people through here?
Okay. Well, it's like this. It's under normal circumstances, I would not be calling you. I would not bring this up. Now, you want to realize here, I'm standing here, and we're talking about beer and deer, and there's gunshots going on over the hill. I'm outside on my porch. You got to give people a unique reason to get into networking, a unique reason to meet somebody. They have to have a reason besides, you've started something. 99 out of 100 times that unique reason is going to be a person. Really, I mean, if you do this thing right, and it's it's going to be the person you're working with. So that, again, going back to promoting the third party, and what this does for people. Pardon?
So if you were talking to me, you would say what? Under normal circumstances.
I want to point one thing out that's so important is it builds confidence in people. Like I left Colleen yesterday, and she's worried. But since it's not about her, I taught her to get you right out of the picture and make it about this person. It's not about Zango, nothing she has to explain. She doesn't want to step into quicksand. It's about this person. Then it gives her confidence. It gives her a sense of, I can win here. Feels good about what she's doing without getting into it. So it's under normal circumstances, I would never bring this up. But I've met a man. I know somebody. I'm working with. I mean, you can fill this in because everybody's a little bit different.
Right.
I've come to know a man. I have a friend, okay, who is a genius or brilliant or a master, whatever. I'm just trying to portray that it's not. You don't have to do exactly the same thing every time, but the essence is what's important. So don't create a script and then send it out to your team and say, follow this letter by letter, because different personalities are not going to want to do it the same way. But the essence has to be there. Master at building networks, and he's going to help Lily and I build a network. He's brilliant at building networks. He's one of the best there is, and I don't know exactly why I got his ear. But as long as I do, I'm going with it. Now, see, that's important. That de-edification is important because we don't know how they perceive us.
Right.
If they've seen us take the garbage out in our underwear, we can't stand there and say, oh, I'm building a network. No. If you stand there and edify yourself, and they don't see you as very high, then who you're edifying isn't very high, because why would this person be working with you? You're no better than me. Matter of fact, you made $20,000 a year less last year than I did. I drive a nicer car than you. Why would this person work with you? So you de-edify yourself. I don't know why I got his ear, but as long as I do, I'm going with it. Now, he's going to spend his time and his money helping us build a network. And he told me to pick 5 people that I love. Now, here again, we go into personalities: love, want to help, work with, bless, whatever. Or 5 people that I think have talent, have good people skills, are industrious. Whatever you want to use, or for each person, you can plug in a different thing. Okay? And now he's going to be building a network for somebody, and he's going to spend his time and his money, his resources, and I want him to spend them on you. Now, what have we done? We've edified the person you're talking to on the phone, and we've edified the person that's showing up, and we've de-edified ourselves. Now, here's what I shared with Colleen yesterday to promote her Zango business. And there's 2 ways. I mean, she has different ways to do this. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't be calling you. I would not even bring this up. That's one way to start.
Right.
Under normal circumstances, I would never even raise this subject. Under ordinary circumstances, I wouldn't be doing it now, but as you know, I've decorated many homes over the years. I've done this person's and that person's home. Now, she has to fill the names in there, right?
Yeah.
She knows people of affluence. She points them out, so it gives her credit, a little bit of credibility over who she knows. I've been exposed to everything. I've seen everything come through the store over the years. Every type of business person you can imagine has come through that store. And there's a man who's a genius at networking. And he really likes Gary and me, and he's going to help us. He's going to spend his time and his money, invest his time and his money to build a network for Gary and me. And I'm supposed to invite only 5 of my closest friends. And if this guy's going to spend his money, Art, and he's going to spend his time, and this guy's absolute best, he's the absolute one of the best there is, and he's going to spend his money, I don't want it to be spent on a stranger. I want it to be on somebody I love, somebody I know, and that's where I want the money to go. So I'm inviting you and your wife, or husband, and you put the name in there. Don't just say wife, you put the name in.
Yeah.
So you want to personalize. You know these people, right? So you don't say you and your wife, you say you and your, and so over Thursday night to hear this guy. And then you get a commitment, because Colleen's setting up for 5 people. And when they show up, I don't want 3 people showing up knowing that they were told 5. And then only 2 didn't. She has to get a commitment. If she doesn't get an absolute ironclad commitment because she was told she could get 5, then she goes to somebody else. So I don't know how many people she'll talk to get the 5 for Thursday night, but then I'm going down, and then we'll talk, and then I've got an absolute captive audience. They think I'm a genius. They think I'm brilliant. I'm a networker. They don't know what's going on. They don't necessarily know it's Zango. They don't know much about it. And she's been instructed not to step into quicksand, but she can tell them a little bit about it. But if she gets into promoting it herself, it's over with, because they will judge that. And here's a mistake so many people make, is they don't realize that people judge what we do through how they perceive us.
Right.
But however they perceive her, even though she makes a lot of money in helping people decorate their houses, working at Ethan Allen. And she's great. She's amazing at what she does. However they perceive her as a business person is how they're going to perceive her opportunity.
Well, Andy, this can be used then, this invitation can be used in a variety of different ways. And the example you're using here, of course, is inviting people out to a live event, but you're also doing some of these on meeting on a conference line or on a 3-way call, right?
Right. Yeah, here's one for a 3-way call. So I could call you up, Art, and I could say, under normal circumstances, I would never even raise this subject. Under ordinary circumstances, I wouldn't be doing it now, Art, but it so happens that I am close friends with a man who has generated millions of dollars in sales and networking and is going to be available on Thursday. And I've been allowed on a low-key basis to build a few small groups to start, and he's going to spend his time and his money and his resource helping me build my network, helping me to build a network. And I don't want him spending that on a stranger, Art. I want it spent on somebody I love or somebody I respect, okay? And you're extremely talented, and he's available on Thursday, and I want you to hear him. And then I'd set an appointment over the phone because you're out there on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast.
Right, yeah. And so then what happens, let's say the three-way call, for instance, is set up, then what are you going to talk about? I mean, how do you approach that call then of now I'm on the call, and so what are you going to say?
Great question. The first thing we want to do is make sure there's some compatibility, that the person, there's a tendency to get on and just blast Zango, but I get on and I want to relate to them. I connect to who that person is, where they're going in life. I find out where they're going so I can plug Zango in, because I absolutely, unequivocally know that I'm infringing upon their life. And in most cases, no one is looking to build a business. Matter of fact, I don't even call this a business because it's counterintuitive to everything anybody's ever known in life. To build a business is to have a mortgage and employees and all that stuff, all the headaches, and this is so far removed. Pictures I've seen of you sitting on your porch with your feet up. Yeah. I mean, I've owned traditional businesses, Art. This is not a business. I mean, it is.
I know what you mean. Yeah, it's not really a business compared to what other people go through.
So we don't call it a business, and I don't dive into that attitude, but I find out where they are in life, and then I plug Zango, freedom, time freedom, financial freedom. If they start talking about that, I find where they're dissatisfied, because we're looking for successful people who, like Colleen, her and her husband are extremely successful and dissatisfied. Yeah. So then I plug into. And then I talk a little bit about what we have here, but I don't talk about me. Here I am, the expert, right? What's the expert talk about? I got Sherman Unkefer. I mean, what a gift that man is. He is brilliant. He's a banker. He's in the banking industry. One time his bank was profiting $1 million a day, and I'm working with him. So I edify Sherman, and I'm so blessed. I want to let everybody know that I feel like I'm like the luckiest guy in the world that I get to work with Sherman Unkefer. He is such a gift, not only to me and my team, but to all of Zango. He's just a brilliant man that's out there taking the arrows for the rest of us as he's launching countries and doing what he does. And he never turns my team down. He's always there. And I like that he cuts to the chase, too. The man he has a way. He sizes it up, figures it out, and what would normally take me a paragraph, he can do in 3 words, Boom, boom, this is what you do. So, love Sherman. But
so you're promoting someone else when you get on the call.
I promote Sherman and Doug and John, and if I was on your team, it'd be you and Chris Peterson, and and this is what these guys are. This is what they're doing. Now, I've already been promoted by the person that's showing up, so I'm a genius at building networks. And then when I get off the phone, the person can, at some point, they can say, I love to use the averages, right? He's on his way, and he's $100K, and the average income for $100K is $17,500 a month, and he's on his way to $200K. And he's going to help me. That's where you re-edify that. He's helping me go to where I want to go. I want to be $100K, and he's going to go to $200K, and the average is $47,000 a month. And then I'm helping a $200K, which I can't. It's Sherman because he's already there. But we're all working together, and we're pulling the rope. And we're all pulling the same direction. So I edify Sherman and Doug, and I'll use Bob Schmidt, and I'll use Cindy Samuelson, and I'll use your story. I plug people's stories in because I don't make it just about the exact lineage. Yeah. I make it about what I know relates to that person within Zango. Barbara
so you could
Schmidt,
pull any
I talk
story.
about her.
You could pull any leader's story if you were familiar with their story into the conversation because it would relate to them. I had when I very first network, I was with one of the greatest networkers there was, I think, in his time, and he always did that. I mean, he always, if you were a dental hygienist, I mean, he would tell you about a dental hygienist that was making six figures. He was always pulling a story that related to that person into every conversation. He had them all, and it only has to be a line or two. It doesn't have to be a whole bibliography.
Right. It's better if it's a line or two, because you get onto I'd rather tell three stories in 2 minutes than tell one story in 2 minutes.
In fact,
we're here. The call is to pique their interest. It's not to sign them up. It's to move the ball down the field and get them to see the team, because there's more things that happen after the call. So we'll take them to a webinar. We'll take them to a CD or a brochure or another three-way call. We move the ball down the field. And the other thing that happens is the team gets involved now. Now they'll get calls from people.
Let's talk about this, Andy, because I know we're starting to run out of time here. And this is a powerful tool that I have never, well, it seems like I've heard about it someplace, but I don't know anybody else that's doing this. So let's talk about, let's say you've done that three-way call with that guy. Someone has edified you, brought him to you. You've kind of walked through some of the basic steps. Now you've got this unique thing that happens on your team, and let's talk about how that works.
Okay. And I want to share with you, see, this is exactly how this deal works. I'm giving this up to Tommy Johnson, okay? I learned this from him. I spent 3 hours with Tommy. And there's a man that gets this thing. He's genius. He's brilliant.
Yeah,
anyhow, Tommy and Carolyn.
That's maybe where I originally heard it from. Yeah.
Yeah. Tommy and Carolyn have been amazing to me in their leadership and their understanding of this industry. Anyhow, it's once somebody's looking at it, they're in the process. You have team members. It doesn't have to be the 500K. Matter of fact, your 500K is probably too busy. You don't let him be doing your three-way calls. You get other people, and they don't have to give a rank, a PIN number. They don't have to say how much money they're making. It's not about that, but they got to be able to edify. They have to be able to be clear and concise, and they have to be disciplined. See, going 100K takes sophistication and discipline. And if you can't have, you're not sophisticated enough to get in and get out in 30, 40 seconds, a minute tops, then it's over with. You've screwed it up. You get in and you edify the team. You edify just what happened, the leaders they were talking to. So what happened before I went down to see Colleen? I had two people, that's not an army, two, maybe three people, call Colleen and tell them how much they appreciate the leadership. They re-edify everything I've already said in just a nutshell. The team, that everybody's always there to help and support. And that Andy is a genius at building networks. He's brilliant or whatever. You listen to him, and whatever it is you want in life will come true through Zengo. As long as you listen to him, and they edify it, and then the next person will edify something else. And I like them to pull it from how they actually feel. I don't want them to script something out and make it, highfalutin. It's just words being read. You can't read it. It has to come from your heart, and it has to be how you feel. Like one guy told her, I trust him with my life.
Wow.
What's that got to do with networking? But that's how he feels. So that's what he said. And what it does is it just edifies. I went down there and she had her notebook out, and she's just, for 4 hours, she's taking notes. And I tell everybody on my team, this is very, very important. If I'm talking, you should be recording it, at least taking notes. I don't want to go over it 5 or 6 times. We don't have time. And then if you're doing it, guess what your people will be doing? You show up and you're taking notes, then they'll be taking notes. And you can demand it of them so you don't have to go over it 5 or 6 times.
So what has happened here, Andy, is you had 2 or 3 people call her, within 24 hours or 48 hours of your initial conversation with these short little follow-up calls,
short little edification, just team support calls.
Team support calls is what you call them. And so that might be a voicemail, or it could be a live conversation, or what?
Great. Excellent. It could be a live conversation. I hope that it's a voicemail.
Right.
Because the person can listen to it over and over and over again. And here's a point. Thanks for bringing me back on track. Is they edify the person. When Joe answers the phone, you ask him if he has a moment. You just have a few seconds. Yes, you don't know me. My name's Chuck.
Yeah.
But I hear you're looking at this. You come highly recommended. I'm hearing great things about you. I mean, people are talking about you and that you're looking at joining our team. Not necessarily Zango, but our team. And let me just tell you. And then you edify whoever they were talking to.
Yeah.
And it can be a 1K, it can be a brand new preferred, it can be anybody that does it, and it can be anybody that's doing the three-way. We don't have to have the upper echelon of the world doing it. And it's very duplicatable, and it supports. Now, that person feels edified. The person that's going to meet them or has already met them is edified. You're always giving it away. You play hot potato. You're always giving the edification away. It's never about you.
Well, Andy, you've done a phenomenal job of taking everything that you've learned through the XGO Pro and Doug and John and what they're doing and applying it better than anybody in Zango. And I think, as far as I know anyway, and I think that's why Doug has been raving about you. You've applied it. A lot of times people listen. I tell people this is not a movie. You listen to this, but do you apply any of it? And that's always the challenge, isn't it?
It is, and what they don't understand, and it's partly our fault, our people's fault, is we think, hey, you get 5, we'll get 5, we'll get 5, we'll get 5, and that looks good on paper, but really to go 100K does take discipline and sophistication. So everybody on this webinar wants to, hopefully they've taken notes, hopefully they recorded it. Is it being recorded so it can listen to it again, Art?
Yes, Sam
Okay.
White records our stuff for us.
Great. Then they want to go over it again and again and again. I record, if Doug Weed's speaking, I'm recording. And then I come home and I take notes from what he spoke, what he said. And I go and I get, I call them magic gems. I ask him, well, what about this and what about that? And I go to all the leaders. And I sit down and I ask them. That's how I ended up in Tommy Johnson's house. I'm in Phoenix, and we called him up and said, hey, he says, yeah, you can come on up. I was hoping for 30 minutes. I got 3 hours, me and a couple of my guys. And we recorded it and took notes. And so I study people. I study you, Art. I mean, you're saying something, I'm listening, and I'm taking notes, and I'm becoming you, in essence. I'm ingraining it, because you can get into Zango, that's one thing. But when Zango gets into you, when the leadership gets into you, everything changes. So I am... what I really work at is embodying Sherman Unkefer, Bob Schmidt, you, Chris Peterson, Tommy, Carolyn Johnson, Barbara Schmidt. I mean, people like that, people I look up to, Dwayne Dyer, Ray Heron, the founders. And I want to get what you guys have. What
I'm really getting from you, Andy, is you're great at edifying everybody, all the leaders, and you've talked to them all. And so, listen, I know we got to get off here, Andy. How about convention coming up? I mean, what can you say? Why would people want to go to convention?
The only reason you'd want to go to convention is if you really want to win. If you don't want to win, don't go. And convention, what it'll do is it's the shortest way to Premier 100K there is. And we focus on 100K on our team. We don't focus on Premier. Because it's only one more 20K leg. We build 5x5x5, and so you work that extra. Let's shoot for 100K, and the worst you'll come up with is Premier. But so the fastest way to 100K is through convention, and you're going to take a camera, take a recorder. I mean, run up to Tommy Johnson and shake that man's hand. Go see Dwayne Dyer, and I'll share this with you. Don't go up to tell your story, guys. You go up and thank them. Get off yourself and get onto these people that are out there taking the bullets and the arrows for everybody. Get out there, go up to your leader here, Art and Terry, and thank them, and then go over to the founders and thank them and ask them, come up with a specific question. Before you go to convention, what do you want to ask this person? And don't ask them a how-to question. Don't say, well, how do you do this? Or what do you say if somebody says this? Ask them why. Why did you do this? What intrigued you about Zango? What do you like about this? Ask them questions that about why they're in this thing. Like Betty Quattlebaum she wanted out of where she was at so bad, she slept in a car at her first convention.
Right.
You know? I mean, why did she do that? What did she see? That's what'll transform your life. Not, hey, what do I say when somebody says they don't like the taste of the juice? Or how do I call somebody on the phone and promote Art? You can get all the how-tos from Art. He's brilliant, man. You got one of the best in the world right here. And I learned from Art. And some of the stuff I've already said has come from Art. So it's a plethora of all the leaders. But get in their heart and find out why. Because when you know why you're doing it, the how will take care of itself. It really, really will. It sounds phony and it sounds weak, but it's the truth. The how will show up. So go to convention. You got to be there if you want to win. It's an absolute must. It's the shortest way to 100K there possibly is. Get around people, ask questions, take notes, carry recorders with you, get lots of pictures of people, and ask those questions and record them. Come back and then write them down. And build your own why, so you're just bulletproof.
Well, thanks a lot, Andy. Great job. I really appreciate you, and your passion has got me vibrating here. A great gift to Zango. We're so thankful for you, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month. Any last words of wisdom, Andy, before we drop you off and just finish the last few minutes of the call?
Yeah, if you could see what I grew up driving, you know. We always had old pickup trucks and kind of rusty, and
I have one of those.
Yeah, tinkering on them and doing things. And my perspective in life, why I just said what I said, my perspective in life, I grew up with 18 years, 20 years, maybe 30 years with having dinner with the wrong mindsets. And I just walked into my computer, and there's a picture of me in a Jaguar.
Yeah, nice.
In Bradford County, Pennsylvania. Now, that was a joke. You see the hay in my mouth? That shows you, or my hand, that shows you where I come from. And that's the mentality out here. People die. It's hard for people to envision because their perspective. You go to convention and you work at changing your perspective. My perspective has changed. My dreams and goals besides blue water has really grown. I see things in a whole different light now, Art. I bought this old house. I bought a 200-year-old house as a fixer-upper because that was what my thinking process was. I was in Zango for 2 months, saw this house, said I'm going to buy it. 11 months later, I bought the house. Dang, if I'd known what I know now, I'd be living up on a mountain like this. I'd have bulldozed this thing in, started from scratch.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was possible. I've seen Joe Morton's house and Betty Q's house and Priscilla Harrison's house and Charlie Emanek. I've seen people, you know, that they're building mansions, and my perspective was wrong. I feel like the Beverly Hillbillies, you know, where Jed Clampett he's found all his oil, and Aunt Pearl says, Jed, what you going to do now that you're rich? And he says, I don't know. I really don't know. What do you think I should do? And she says, come on, Jed, look at it. You live in a shack. Yeah, heat with a wood stove. You got one oil lantern for light. Your bathroom, where you got to go to the bathroom, is 50 yards out your back door. Your front yard is overrun with skunk and possum and fox. You know, if it weren't for that wood stove, you'd just freeze in the winter, and you got to cut all that wood. Come on, Jed. And he rubs his chin, and he goes, I guess you're right, Pearl. Man be a dang fool, leave all this.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that was my perspective, Art. That's how I grew up. And so you go to these events, and you connect with people like you that have a bigger perspective so that I can see further. Like Sherman, I asked Sherman, how much money does he want to make in Hawaii? And he looked at me and he says, I want to make $1 million a month. I went, whoa, $1 million a month? I got in Zango just to make $1 million. And that blew me away. I said, why? He said, because of the Roger Bannister story. After he broke it, he led the way for others to do it. And hundreds of people in the next decade broke the 4-minute mile. He's doing it to show everybody else. Well, guess what? Doug Weed joined Zango after being offered money from many other companies, $1 million from one. He joined Zango because he can see $1 million a month. I can start to see it now. I think I'm going to make $1 million a month, Art, a month.
Well, I know you do a lot of good things for it, Andy, and I know you got to run off. You've got a thing to attend. So, thanks so much for coming on. And listen, you guys, make sure you go up to Andy and thank him at convention. And we really appreciate you, Andy Houston. Thanks a lot. 100K Premier, awesome guy. Thanks, Andy.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you. This has been a lot of fun, and yeah, let's get perspectives changed.
Okay, thanks, Andy. And I just
You're
launched
amazing,
a poll.
Art.
We'll see you in convention to see who's coming to convention. So if you haven't been at your computer recently, check out the poll. Actually, we got a lot of leaders on here. I can see that. We're going to be closing the poll here in a second, and let's have a look at the. Let's have a look at the share results here. Yeah, most everybody's coming here so far.
Look what you're doing. You are so genius. Look at what you can do. This blows my mind. I just learned how to do email 2 years ago.
And also, everybody, I just wanted to ask you, I've got another poll here I wanted to run here, and I've got a solution to this because I know a lot of the kind of questions that are coming up here a lot. And so let me just make sure I'm on to this next slide here. Here you go. Now this is an interesting poll. I really want to take this poll, and I have a solution for you. Do you have a third-party expert that you can work with, that you can do three-way calls with? And ideally, of course, it should be your upline. Naturally, that's always the best. But I've got two 5Ks or a 20K and a 5K that are working together, and they just really hit it off together. And so they don't have to necessarily be in your upline. And so most people, looks like they have a third-party expert. We've got about just going to close this poll here in a few minutes just before we wrap up the call. And I've got a suggestion for you. If you don't have a third-party expert, the best way to meet them are at events. You know, at the next local event is a good way to meet people. So always look for local events and see who you can connect with. But what about the My Mangosteen message board? Why doesn't somebody post third-party credibility as a new message there and introduce yourself and tell them that you're looking for a third-party expert, and post if you're looking for a third-party expert under that at the message board, and look to connect with people that are on the message board, that are on this call. These are all leaders that are on this call. You guys are all leaders, and so you know, why not connect with some of the leaders that are on here? Let's poll this. You see, and we've got quite a. Well, let's share the results here. It's so there's the poll results. So we got 22% of the people on here don't feel like they have a third-party expert, and so my suggestion is call your sponsor, call your sponsor's sponsor, call your upline, keep working up, and in fact, call people that you don't even know that are in your upline, you've never even talked to, and see if they're willing for you to take some of your high-quality people. And then look to connect at convention. Another great reason to go to convention is to connect with people there that might be third-party experts for you. That's what happened to Lisa and Sandy, who are working really well together. But I'd also suggest post on the message boards, okay? So we'll hide the results on that. Just to finish up, folks, yeah, it's a third-party credibility, working as a team. I'm not going to talk too much about the lone wolf because we're running out of time. I'll save that for next time. But that's a whole principle where people are used to just doing things on their own and not working as a team. And you have to be now, we're switching into becoming products of the products. We have a number of different products, right? And it's incredible, the category creating products. You want to be using all of the products if you want your network to be using them. And so the Glimpse, of course, is a fantastic product. The mineral, the pericarp oil that was just released, we got the minerals are out now. And so use all of the products. There's also going to be some convention exclusive products that will only be available at convention we just heard about. Also, I want to talk about these two major drawings that are happening at convention. The recruiters, they're going to give away 2 cars, one for the top recruiter and the other one for the top bringer. So we got 2 free cars at convention, and the recruiter is for anyone who sponsors somebody, who attends convention and sponsors somebody between September 1st and October 15th. You're going to get a ticket for a free car if you're at convention. And the bringer, if you sponsored somebody from last convention, November 1st to October 23rd of this year, if you've sponsored somebody and they attend convention this year, that's called the bringer. And that's also going to get you a ticket for this car. So I think this is going to be hot, and they're rewarding those that are working and bringing people out. They're also going to have some recognition ribbons. I can't go into them now. I don't have a lot of time, but you're going to have ribbons for earners, for enrollers, for retrainers, for bringers, for achievers. Going to be lots of fun, lots of recognition. Here's some of the breakouts that they're going to be doing at convention. About 12 different kinds of breakouts. Some doctor breakouts. That's all on the Friday afternoon. They also talked about on our leadership call convention on a budget. There's economy hotels within walking distance for $35 a night and $49 a night. And the Super 8 motel. So, if you're on a budget, check up with somebody. I mean, I know everybody's shared rooms with other people. There's some low-cost economy hotels, low airfares, and food on a budget. You can be creative here. The only other thing I want to say is this, and I want to close with this. Your excuses are the reason for attending convention. So if you have an excuse, and I know the number one excuse is I can't afford it, that's the reason you go. Because if you can't afford convention, that means you need an income stream, and you need to learn, you need to get it, and you need to figure out exactly how to make this thing work for yourself, right? I mean, it's not going to change unless you change. And so whatever your excuse is the reason to attend, in my view. And so I'd like to thank you all for coming on the webinar. Thanks once again, Andy Hewson. We're looking forward to seeing you all next month. I know a lot of people are attending there, and we look forward to it. So I'm going to just open up the line and give Andy a big round of applause for sharing his heart and his passion with us today. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, everybody.